with groundbreaking news and cutting-edge commentary, challenging your personal worldview and taking a deeper look into current events, politics, economics, and government. We bring you Trevor Thiessen with the Thiessen Report.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Thiessen Report. Thank you for joining me. Today, I'd like to talk about false flag operations. And you're wondering, well, what is that? And it is something that matters. It affects all of us. And once you understand what it is, you will understand what a major significance this has. I'm just going to read you the definition right out of Wikipedia of a false flag. False flag operations are covert operations designed to deceive the public in such a way that the operations appear as though they are being carried out by other entities. The name is derived from the military concept of flying false colors. And it was like ships, back in the old days would fly their flags on the ship, but what they would do is they'd pull their flag down, they'd put the flag of another country up to make it look like somebody else was attacking them. So that is flying the flag of a country other than your own. Typically, a false flag is an operation that is typically military. There are civilian applications to that, political or economic, or even the police, but primarily it is a military function or operation. And there are countless examples of this throughout history. Governments do this. This is where it's dangerous to be naive, because the average person doesn't think this way. You get up in the morning, you have your breakfast, you kiss your wife, you go to work, take the kids to soccer. Normal people do that. They don't think about how to attack other countries, but made it look like somebody else did it and blamed them. So the power elite, if you want to call them that, this is what they're looking at. This is what they're thinking about. When I say power elite, I mean people in top positions economically, politically, militarily, in those arenas. And there are, like I said, historically there are countless examples. I'm going to cover one here in a minute into a little more detail, but just on the surface, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, the Christmas Day bomber back in 2009, Detroit, that was a staged event. That's been admitted now. That was a false flag operation. That was a fake terrorist attack. It's not what it appears to be. You have the Christmas tree bomber over in Portland, Oregon. Same thing. In fact, authorities even admitted that they set them up, which is unusual that they do that, but they actually did. The 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center is another example. Oklahoma City bombing, 1995, is another example. And of course, the big one, 9/11, 2001. The largest, nastiest false flag that I'm aware of. And we will get into some of those particular incidences in future episodes. But people need to understand that when governments do this, there are ramifications. We stage a phony attack like 9/11. That becomes the pretext or the springboard for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That becomes the springboard for Department of Homeland Security. That becomes the springboard for fusion centers. That becomes the springboard for the Patriot Act 1 and 2, Victory Act 1 and 2, and all this other draconian police state measures that are being taken. So you see an attack happen, looks like it's carried out by Muslims, but in fact they're being used as patsies to create the illusion that we're being attacked by people from the Middle East, when in fact you have a small criminal element within our own government and the private sector and even other foreign intelligence agencies being involved in this event to set it up and carry it out. It's a huge operation. It's much more complex than just 19 hijackers. And we'll get into 9/11 later. That's one of the big things I do want to cover in future episodes. But it is paramount that we understand this, because they do it over and over and people don't wise up. They have the Christmas Day bomber or the underwear bomber guy that fails to detonate the bomb, and it's a big fiasco. And the next thing you know, we have naked body scanners in the airport and TSA groping us and sticking their hands down our pants. What was the pretext? The underwear bomber this phony staged event that gives them the reason to do this. That's what it really is. It's called the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. They're not starting with the problem. They've already starting with the solution. This is what we want to accomplish. We have to create a reason to do this, though. Otherwise, the public won't accept this. We need to create a reason for war. We need to create a reason for naked body scanners. We need to create a reason for bringing in more police state legislation. So we create the problem. If there isn't one, we create one. We create a 9/11. We create an unaware bomber. We conjure this stuff up. We create an incident which causes a reaction from the public, and we bring in the solution. Oh, look, this bad thing happened. The public reacts. Hey, we have the solution. Here's what we're going to do. And that's how they operate. It's manipulation. They're framing people and they're manipulating the public. That's basically what it boils down to. When I say the Hegelian dialectic, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but the Hegelian dialectic is kind of where this stems from. It is the framework for guiding our thoughts and actions into conflicts that lead us to a predetermined solution. Hegel was he was someone that lived centuries ago, and a lot of his theories were used by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the formation of their communist theology, if you will. All right, a specific example of false flag operations that I want to talk about today is Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods was created in 1962, March of 1962, and it was a plan that was submitted by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Joint Chiefs of Staff to McNamara, who was the defense secretary at the time, and to Kennedy. Kennedy fortunately rejected this plan, thank God. And later, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs at that time was Lyman Lemnitzer, L.L. Lemnitzer. He was moved to another position shortly after that. I believe he was moved to head of NATO in Europe. So, fortunately, Operation Northwoods never actually took place. But the scary thing is, this is what the people at the top came up with. They meant to do this. They were prepared to do this. That's the scary part. You know, and maybe Kennedy turned it down, but that doesn't mean other presidents will. In fact, they haven't. They've used other variations of this. But, you know, a little bit of history. 1959, Castro invades Cuba and takes over. Communists get in and get control of power. 61, you have the Bay of Pigs, which was a disaster. You know, it was a disaster for the Kennedy administration, of course. And so naturally, you know, the military really wants to get in there and get rid of Castro. Now, I'm not part of the Castro fan club, and I hate communism, okay? I despise any ideology that is tyrannical or totalitarian. I don't care what form it takes, political, economic, religious, whatever, military, it doesn't matter. And I do not support the regime in Cuba. But the point here is our own military brass was going to set up phony terror attacks on our own people here, blame it on Cuba, and that would be our pretext or our excuse for going in to Cuba, basically initiating a military campaign to go in there, invade Cuba, and get rid of Castro, you know, set up, you know, democracy or whatever. And it's a slippery slope when you get into the place of the ends justify the means. Now, Lemnitzer, yeah, he was anti-communist, but hey, you don't sacrifice American civilian lives to make up a phony story just so you can start a war. That's crazy. And that's what they did. And I know it's like, I've tried to tell people about this, and they kind of look at me. It's like they almost can't believe it. They just kind of nod, but it's just kind of like it goes right by them. But it's not complicated. This is not difficult to understand. The premise is simple. Stage a phony attack against Cuba, blame it on them, then we get to go to war and accomplish our political agenda.